My neck only permanently cracks in some positions, so I'm doing okay. Welcome to Ryan Runs. I'm Ryan Miller, and this is the show about the show. It's become many shows since. I know I've broken off the video game thing and the comics thing and who knows what from here on out. But for now, this is still the one where we talk about everything. In fact, I wanted to use it right at the top here to talk about what's been going on at the Patreon. I think I mentioned at some point that I was going to be rearranging things, and it was something I always had on the list of things to do. I think this is a little bit sooner than I had anticipated, but I think it'll light a fire under me, a fighter that will hit me, and then perhaps start a fire that will then motivate me to do what I had in mind, which is to eventually get a website going where, I know this seems silly, but more than anything, I can sell some t-shirts-ish type things. I just like designing t-shirts. I went to school for graphic design for a real long time, and you could say I even use some of that when I make my videos for whatever clients will have me, even though I will never call myself a graphic designer because there are so many good ones, and I don't want that business. But not only will that let me put some of those t-shirt designs out in public, but it'll also let me fill out the kind of mid-range tier that I wanted to have all along for the Patreon, where I can offer up some store credit for anybody that's subscribing at the higher tiers. I think $24 and over. So the last three tiers there will be anybody that signs up gets a $20 coupon to the store. So while that's not there just yet, which is probably bad for a Patreon, it did allow me to move down some of the options because I also felt like I wasn't giving enough for the $4 and $9 tiers. The $2 tier is kind of what they call a tip jar. You know, it's the lowest available offering for you to be like, hey, I liked your things and thank you. Even though you will also get access to the Discord and the Patreon feed, which I've been populating with any number of things. But the $4 and $9 tier have now come down a little bit. The producer credit stuff is going to be with the $4 tier now, and that'll be retroactive. So anybody that has signed up at that, you will see your name at the end of some of these videos. In fact, I want to say the last video I did had that. Might have been the Crokinole Let's Play, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So if you want a personalized video message, that's now at the $9 tier, and anybody that's signed up for that will get one also retroactively. I think I'll start working on those late this week or next week, which I guess, what are we, Thursday? We're already late this week, so I'm not working on them right now. I'll work on them later. So that's it for Patreon. If you want basically to participate in more of what I do, that's a good spot to be. I will begin posting more in the feed about upcoming projects and how you might be able to participate or influence what I do, etc. The other thing I did want to talk about was that Crokinole video. It did finally go out. I know I've been talking about it forever, and I'm going back to where I have talked about it forever and updating links. But it was a ton of fun, and it continues to mark kind of the freeform handling of content around here, where stuff like that doesn't necessarily need, I think, its own series. I've got, series with seasons going on with chasers and gameplay sooner or later. We'll get to that too, actually. But for now, the Let's Plays are just going to be Let's Plays. It might be me, it might be the family. This Crokinole one is the family. It's also an excuse to do some fun camera stuff. So I had a slow-mo, high frame rate on the close-up of the board. So you got some cool playbacks there for any of the weird shots or crazy things that we certainly didn't mean to do because we're not that good at the game yet, but we had a ton of fun. So that's cool. Look for more of those here and there. Also semi-related, because these aren't that, but I do hope to be streaming Tuesdays at 10. I'm still going to stick with that name because it's also the time. So that will also happen. The gameplay series that I talked about, I think when I released the trailer, which is out there, I said a week or two. Well, it turns out it takes a long time to play 3 Burnout games to their completion. when I play them to their completion, I've finished the first, and I did just keep playing it because I enjoyed it so much. Spoiler, I guess, if you don't want to be spoiled on the episode where I go into detail on how the Burnout series came to be and what I think of it. I'm also done with Burnout 2. I have Burnout 3 installed and ready to go, but haven't started it yet. So I might cap some Burnout Paradise stuff to round out the footage, but for now, Burnout 3 is the only game I have left to play, and then I'll start actually producing that episode. So that's that. If you've been watching this, if you've been listening to it, still thank you, and I'm going to try to be better about explaining what's going on visually. But if you're watching it, you've already seen the next picture on the wall in the form of that Lego patent. And unfortunately, this is mostly covered by me in addition to being out of focus, so you won't see a ton of it actually on camera. It's also the most recent acquisition of mine. Actually, it's not an acquisition, it's a gift. Is a gift still an acquisition? If it is, thanks, Mom, for another acquisition. She gave this to me, I don't remember, last year sometime, let's say. And it's a fantastic gift because, yes, I have always liked Legos. And I know you'll hear me say Legos and Lego. I know the technical term plural for Lego is Lego, for Legos is Lego, or whatever, however. Lego plural is still Lego. I know that. I'm just going to get it wrong often. I'll start out with the fun stuff, maybe. I'll start out with this picture from 1986 where I am digging into the set 6386 of the police command base, I believe it is, with my cousin William, Missy William. But I remember these sets by name even though I don't have them anymore. The Blacktron series, and I've heard it said Blackatron, but I'm pretty sure it was Blacktron, or that's always how I said it when I was a kid, so I'm going to stick with it. But this Invader spaceship was a favorite. I also had the Batrax, I believe this is called, down in the corner. It's kind of a four-wheel lunar lander thing. The Blacktron was like a space series because Lego had astronauts. Think about Benny in the Lego movie, right? They always had those. Blacktron was basically all of that except they were black. Like even their visor was just jet black. So I don't know, thought it was super cool. Black and yellow was the color scheme there. And then I had somehow, again, probably thanks to my mom, the Message Intercept base, which was the biggest Lego set I ever had. I remember building and rebuilding that thing a million ways to Sunday, and probably also on Sunday. But that part on the right that you can see is like a separate thing that you turn to the crank that you can kind of see. It just looks like a yellow cone down there. You turned that and that thing would separate or come back. The dome that you see on the left, or half dome, I guess, would open up in kind of a flower blooming thing where that flying thing would land in there. I guess it was a launch pad, you could say. Loved those Legos. Gave them away, I believe, to Jaron Lewis, my nephew, when I was newly living and going to college, possibly, or just before college. I haven't seen them since, so I hope you're enjoying them, Jaron, because I would be building those Legos right now if I had them. But this is where things begin to change. And I think it's where things change often for maybe everybody at some point. And it's where you stop playing with Legos. And I don't remember exactly when that happened. Certainly my interests shifted. And, I got into comic books at some point, you might know. And then I got into skateboarding. So Legos definitely took a back seat, would be putting it lightly. I don't think I got a set for years. I was always more interested in playing video games. Instead, might have been the real replacement there. So there came a time when somebody or the world told you that it was kids' stuff, and I think there's maybe a little bit less of this. I think we're maybe better at this since the nerds have won the war and every other movie is a Marvel movie. But there was a good long while where I feel like, and people do still do this, you're looked down on, depending on what you choose to do. And I have a bigger video in mind for this that I will make at some point. And it does largely relate, I think, to video games because they might be one of the biggest victims of this mindset. But there's a lot there. So I'm glazing over some of it, I'm sure, but let's just say that for me, it started out, I used to like Legos, so I'll buy some for my kids. So I did that, and the kids loved that, obviously. Some of the pictures I didn't pull were, we used to call them Lego doodles that Evelyn used to do. In fact, they're easy to pull, so maybe I just pull them now, and I put them down there in the corner now, and now I've done that. So the kids had a great time with that. And then slowly, of course, I started getting back into them. And we had a lot of fun. We started doing these cool little 8-bit designs because you can just take the 8-bit sprites from any of those games, really, and do stuff. We did a Yoshi egg here, a bunch of stuff from Mario, Pac-Man, and this Mario as well. Stuff from Galaga, which I've heard somebody pronounce as Galaga once, at least. So COVID was a very productive period, you can see here, for Lego building. In fact, I think this also happened during COVID or shortly thereafter. Me and Evelyn built one of my favorite sets of all time. In fact, if you're looking for a Lego set, pick this one up. It's the Voltron set. It's cheaper than you think it would be, and it literally is all of those component piece. Like you build 5 lions and you can combine them into the Voltron figure. And I never had Voltron growing up. I do vaguely remember the cartoon and have tried to revisit it actually recently when we got this set. And some things don't hold up in the ways that you want, but do in other ways. That cartoon might be one of them. But that set is awesome. It's super fun and very cool to put it all together. So check that out. I did some time-lapse videos with Evelyn when we built those on my just personal Instagram. So maybe I'll pull some of those and put them up on Ryan Runs somewhere just so you can have a look. Maybe the final one there. This is all a long-winded way of saying, who cares? Whenever anybody says that Legos are a kid's toy or Lego is a kid's toy, Lego are a kid's toy, still sounds weird. Who cares? And again, this is getting into more of what I want to talk about for an entire video, but because we all get time to escape or play or recharge, and when it comes to that time, what does it matter at all? Just at all. What does it matter? If I'm watching TV or playing with, like, I happen to think things like video games and Legos are more constructive than something like television. But again, we've got another video coming. So those are my thoughts. That's why that's on the wall, more or less. And if you have similar thoughts, let me know. And you can always find me on that Patreon website that I talked about before, but also here on YouTube, possibly on this podcast feed, and anywhere else. So thank you forever and always. Bye.